The Get On Living Safely campaign is sponsoring this podcast to remind you to keep your spending in the community. Supporting local businesses keeps food on the table for our friends and neighbors. Follow them on social media and learn more at getonlivingsafely.com. Mitch Reynolds is a local sustainable builder, acting as the project and operations manager and analyst for WholeTrees Structures. We talk his early years, using whole trees in architecture, unique stories from traveling the country, working on a community project with the recently completed Lacrosse Bandshell, and his recent candidacy for mayor of Lacrosse. I'm Amy.
And I'm Brent.
And this is Lacrosse Local.
My name is Mitch Reynolds. I was born in southwestern Michigan, in a little town called Three Rivers. It's a little bit south of Kalamazoo. And the path to sustainable building is one that meanders, let's just put it that way. Goes through a lot of things and a lot of different variations and courses of my life. That's fascinating. The thing is, so I was recruited to WholeTrees because I have a combination of skills that they just happened to need at the time or thought they needed at the time. That's proven correct. One of the things that I am able to do is build things. I can build things and I can fix things and I can understand, analyze, and grasp some concepts that maybe not everybody can in the physical world, but also connect those to business concepts and things like that, as well as be able to talk to people and listen to real concerns about projects. So sustainable building was something that I was introduced to years ago by the founder of WholeTrees in relation to, him building straw bale houses and architecture involving whole timbers. After many, many years, kind of came full circle, and WholeTrees came looking for me. And it just felt like the perfect fit. Kind of a long roundabout answer, but the truth is there's been so many stops along the way that have led me to where I am right now and what I'm doing right now with WholeTrees.
You work in utilizing WholeTrees structures. Why would someone pick this option?
It's fascinating because you're actually asking me WholeTrees marketing questions right now, which is really fun. But so I hope I get this right, because I bet at some point the boss is going to be listening and she's going to think, what did he just say? Wait a minute. Part of what WholeTrees uses in building can be things that, and often are, trees that aren't used for anything else. And it's less about waste and more about the cullings or the parts of the forest that are overlooked in conventional timber production. So WholeTrees is exactly that. It's whole timbers, frequently small dimensional round timbers that are used for their structural capacity, as well as the sustainability of the forestry practices with which we derive these. But I think the reason why people choose this route is because of its sustainability. That's one of the key selling points, but also its beauty. There is that. I mean, there's something about when you go into a building and it's the structures that are holding it up, the trusses and the columns. There's something about when those are built out of these whole timbers, there's something that's holistically and spiritually gratifying about that, I think, for just the general population. It's bringing the outdoors inside. It feels comforting. So there is that. The other thing is that it's just better. It's a better, more efficient way to structurally put up a building. But in other aspects, we do zoos and playgrounds, as well as provide structural columns and beams and trusses and all that. We do zoos and playgrounds and things, and they're strong, they're durable, they last a long time. They provide a great deal of value for clients, and that, they just look better for the communities that they're in, or in the cases of zoos, for the facility that they're in. I mean, there's just any number of reasons why. Oftentimes, though, it's driven by this idea of sustainability.
Your projects have led you around the country. What do you find most interesting about these projects? The people, the stories of why they're building?
I think one of the most interesting things is that it's such a rich variety. We're not building just houses. In fact, we don't do houses at all. If I go through the list of buildings, list of projects that I'm involved in right now, there's a big zoo project in San Diego. There's a big zoo project in Boston. There's a big zoo project in Chicago. There's a Head Start building in Madison, right in our backyard. a couple of playgrounds, one in Seattle. There's a playground in Toronto. There's a learning barn/greenhouse center that we're working on in North Carolina. There's all these different projects. As you talk about stories, they all come with their different backstory. And it's fascinating the different routes that people go through to get to WholeTrees, and finding along the way different reasons to really want to incorporate our stuff into their buildings. And it can be driven by donors in the cases of zoos. It can be driven just by architects who are they love the beauty of what they're looking at. They love how it's going to, in their mind, architects, naturally very creative people. So they love, in their mind, they're seeing these trees move all around the inside of their building. Sometimes it's just fits into the aesthetic of the place it's going to. So, I just love how many different ways. In the case of this MHA tribe in North Dakota, it was really, for them, was a very spiritual thing. They were bringing their earth lodge construction that is incredibly spiritual and traditional for them. They were bringing that along with the cottonwood that those things were originally built out of. They brought all of that indoors, and we built that indoors for them in their interpretive center in Newtown, North Dakota. All of these different and various paths and stories to get to WholeTrees that's the fascinating part, just the rich variety, I think.
You also helped put up the Lacrosse Bandshell. What do you think that project means to the community? How has that involvement affected you?
That's such a great project. Actually, I was down at Rotary Lights just the other night, and there was somebody that was commenting on the bandshell, and they're really excited about the idea of seeing actually some live music there. And I remember when we first got involved, the assumption was that it was going to be ready for action basically this past spring, and there was going to be bands up there. It was going to be a big celebration and all the things that we never really got to do, really. I know there's a ton of disappointment, and it really delays when that can happen. But I remember from the very beginning, when we got involved, it was because, I have, and the people that I work with have such a strong investment in this area, but certainly in the city of Lacrosse. And it was such an honor to be asked to help move that process along and to help finish that project so we could get it up and have it be the showcase that it really is. And we were super happy to do it. And it felt great. We were putting it up. It was amazing because when we got involved in the project, it was pretty late in the construction process. There was already things that were going up, and we had to kind of jump in midstream and try to help push things along. And by the time we got down there to installing the pieces that we were going to install, it was in that moment of time where nobody wants to be on an articulating lift, putting timbers up on a giant structure. It was December. It was late November and early December. So the people in Rotary Lights, they were opening up Rotary Lights, right? So that was going on. Well, actually, we started before that. So we started before the opening of Rotary Lights. And then as Rotary Lights was opening up, we were still finishing up in that middle section where the bandshell was, and it was cold. It got really cold at some point. So it was super challenging, but there was a tremendous feeling of dedication about everybody from WholeTrees that was involved about making sure that what we were putting up in our backyard was truly representative of how we felt about the city. And helping that process along was incredibly gratifying for everybody who was involved. It felt tremendous. It really did. And every time I go down there, first of all, I look at all the different connections because I have a personal memory of each one of those connections. I was managing that installation. And so seeing each of those connections and knowing the story about how challenging each one of those things was to put together is great. I love that. But then also just, get a little chill because it is so impressive. It's such a beautiful addition to that stage. And it's almost to the point where I can't believe that it wasn't there before, And hats off, obviously, Roald Gunderson, the architect, he just created something that was truly magical. And it was just a pleasure to be involved personally, also for WholeTrees to be involved and actually having that thing come to fruition. It's beautiful. I can't wait to hear the performances that we're going to hear down in the park and see that park full of just crowds and crowds of people just hearing those live performances. It's going to be fantastic. I'm so looking forward to that.
So it just so happens, though, that you're also running for mayor of Lacrosse. Why?
I am running for mayor because the city of Lacrosse, first of all, is at a critical point where we are facing a tough road to recovery from what we've just been through this massive pandemic and all the crises that families have faced, that individuals have faced, that businesses have faced, the businesses that have closed down, and the significant monumental negative impact all of that has had in our community. And I'm not even going to go into the tremendous amount of divisions that have occurred in our community and elsewhere in that time, just happens to be in that time as well. But just in relation to what we've faced, I looked at that situation and I realized that not only could I help and would I not be the right person for this, but it felt like it was exactly what I needed to be doing. I believe that I can help this city progress. I will say this, that every person running for mayor is going to have a very similar response to why they're running for mayor, because they want to help. I mean, this is what this is. You don't do this there's no glory in being mayor of the city of La Crosse, first of all. And just so I can get rid of all of the misconceptions about being mayor, there is some significant unpleasantries about this job. I've watched mayors just get brutalized, making decisions that were at times incredibly unpopular. It's a slog of a job that takes you through city council meetings till midnight. You'll start answering questions, sometimes in meetings at 7:00 in the morning. You're answering questions and taking criticism from people that you run into in the grocery store. You really do have to have an incredibly thick skin. But everybody will answer that question. They want to be mayor because they want to serve. We want to be mayor because we want to serve this community. I have lived in this community for 25 years, and this has become, first of all, my home. But I love this city. This city has embraced me, a relative outsider, and I feel at home here. And I want to help. I want to help get us farther. I was talking to somebody, collecting a signature from somebody the other day, that a young mother of 2 young boys, and she's talking about the challenges that she's facing with her kids not in school and not being able to work and trying to figure out how to make ends meet, trying to find a way to make all this make sense, and looking forward to this situation in the coming future where there's no real definitive answers for how we're going to emerge. And it's that kind of person that begs for leadership that can help us, emerge from this crisis. And that's why I'm running for mayor, because I can be that person and I want to be that person.
And if people want to follow along, where can they find out more about you and your campaign?
If you have specific questions that you want to just ask me personally, feel free to send me a message and I will answer any email. Just send me a message via email, because it's a really quick and easy way for me to understand what your answer is, or your question is, and for me to answer you right away. And that's at Mitch Reynolds for mayor @gmail.com. And the 4 is the number. Mitch Reynolds, the number 4 mayor @gmail.com. Send me a message and I'll get back to you right away. You can also message me on Facebook. We have a campaign Facebook page, our website, mitchreynolds.com. You can submit questions there. We're going to be adding some more information about issues on that website very soon. We're starting at ground zero and really building something and building it quickly, but it's taking a minute. It's exciting, though. It's really exciting. WholeTrees, if you like to go to WholeTrees.com, you can find out so many wonderful things about the types of structures and the type of building and design that WholeTrees is involved in. And if you ever have any questions, there's a lot of contact information on that website where you can reach out and get more information about some of the curiosities that you have about WholeTrees, what it is, what we do, what we build, all that stuff.
Lacrosse Local Podcast is a production of River Travel Media. Do you have an interview idea you would like to share with us? Message us on Facebook @Lacrosse Locals. Subscribe to the Lacrosse Local Podcast on your favorite podcast app. If you like us, rate us 5 stars. We thank you for it.